We've got to put recording on at the start. Okay, what is it? Right, so it's quite wide, in fact. And you've got restaurants, bars, hotels, accommodation, travel agencies and tour operators, sports and recreation facilities, and also gambling and betting. A lot of people forget that bit, that it is part of this industry. The figures that we've got on here are not out of date, but they are old because of the data that comes through. It's very slow in this industry, and it does change. So consequently, it's looking at the accommodation, food and beverage services, travel agencies, tour operators, gambling and betting, sports activities, and amusement parks. Amusement parks have actually grown in that sphere economically in the last, well, certainly in the last 10 years. Many of them have subsectors. One of the things that the gambling section has had problems with recently is the in-shop betting using machines and things. There's a lot of criticism of it, and the industry is trying to change that image now to try and bring it round. So, skills challenges. Output has increased 5% year on year in the last decade and will increase by a similar amount in the coming decade. Major sporting events provide incredible opportunities to promote UK visitor economy. Customers are becoming more demanding, driving up the level of service that's expected. Managers and staff need to develop a culture of continuous improvement to meet these increasing expectations. Nearly every industry that you can think of has gone through this sort of process certainly in the last 20 years. It's been accepted within high skill areas that this is high practical skill areas should accommodate that, which has allowed people to come in who have got the skills and ability to actually drive this forward. But there is still a high proportion of transient workers who just work summer or seasonal and that sort of thing, which, if they're committed to do it and this is what they want to do, then fine. But there's quite often a high proportion within there that are not particularly motivated. It's just a means to an end. That makes managing it all that more difficult. Not enough employers invest in the workforce. That is true, and that has been true in most of the sectors that we've discussed. One of the sectors in particular, the hotel industry, has not really taken on board passing on that information and putting people through onto training courses, except for ones that they've had to do, like kitchen staff have to do, hygiene and stuff like that. Tourism is an important part of the economy. It's 62 billion in 2010. So, all right, this is now probably, 15, 16 years old in terms of data. But it's showing that increase all the time. It's 5% of the whole gross domestic product of the country. So it's important that it does continue to grow and employ people. So it employs around about 2.5 million people. Half work in restaurants and bars, while a fifth work in sports. Over a third of workers are under 25, compared to average costs across all sectors of 13%. Now that's a big difference. I mean, you're looking at 33% against 13, and that is part of the it's mentioned there as transient. A lot of them are students that are off for the summer and looking for work to provide their upkeep in that time. the proportion of micro or very small operators is very high. I mean, there are still quite a lot of high travel shops, which are just run by one sort of person, and that's his business. Oops, here we go. 2011, British residents took 58.4 holidays, spending £13 billion. What's money? Top visitor attractions: the Big Museum, the National Gallery, the Tate Modern, Natural History Museum, and the Science Museum. Now, that doesn't get advertised very much. Most of the people will say, oh yeah, theme parks, everybody goes to theme parks, Disneyland, Legoland. They do, but not in numbers, obviously, that of the traditional, if I can say that, areas. Tower of London, obviously, was the most visited attraction, and it has admission charges, yeah. The sporting events and the Olympics and Paralympics, the Rugby World Cup, those bring an awful lot of revenue into the country. It's the 7th leading destination in the world for inbound tourists. And over 8 million adults participate in some sort of sport or active recreation. 21% of the adult population. That sounds good, but it's not as good as some other European countries where the percentage of the population involved in sport in some way or practicing in sport in some way is a lot higher. This may be, of course, because we've got, what is it, 62 million now people living in this country, whereas, say, Sweden has got probably 9 million people, but a large percentage of that 9 million are involved in sport regularly. But of course, it's a much smaller number of people than UK. Where could it be tomorrow? UK is a top 5 world destination. We attract even greater share of the international tourism market. More than half the tourism expenditure of UK residents is spent in the UK rather than overseas. That is true nowadays. It was the other way around for quite a long time, but it has now started to run back the other way, and more people are actually holidaying in the UK than they are in Europe, for instance. Capitalises on all the sporting venues that we have on a regular basis. I mean, these are repeat, well, not the Olympics, of course, but like the Cricket World Cup and the rugby and the football, of course, not the World Cup, but major European events that take place in the UK. Employers collaborate and lead own skills solutions, sector skills issues. I'm not quite sure whether that's actually true or not. Some do. Productivity. Labour productivity is lower in service sectors than in other sectors of the economy, and it also varies across a lot of different sectors. Productivity is highly likely to be linked, but I personally think it is. A lot of the problem is that in the service sectors, you've got a lot of low-skill jobs, and they're paid very little. In fact, national minimum wage crops up more than you would think, and in some cases, not even that. So, where is the motivation for productivity if you are treating people of that nature? It doesn't work. Ultimately, it fails, in my experience. So, motivated employees who are happy in their jobs are more likely to good customer service, which leads to satisfied customers and ultimately greater profit. That is absolutely true. But unfortunately, there are still a preponderance of employers who do not believe that or prefer not to believe that because it's going to cost them some more money usually. Motivated employees equals satisfied customers, which equals profit. This actually was much the same thing as the last one, actually. It's looking at business benefits, improved organisational performance, purely on involving and motivating the staff. And it really is the message that a lot of the managers in larger organisations are beginning to get through to some of the people who actually own the businesses. We're looking at different things on this one. I'm not going to read it all out, but you can read through this yourself afterwards. Oops, it's jumping about like mad. Back to there. Thank you. This is looking at a hotel that it developed their own employee engagement strategy. It focused on keeping staff happy at all levels, and that is the secret. At all levels, they then become part of a team. A strong relationship building with customers, managers and peers. Like I said, they are the team. Attention to detail, giving extra 10%. Energy and drive, resilience and passion for one's work. And shaping working into one's own and being achievement focused. Now, those are all the things that have been going for a while now, but in not just this industry, but other industries as well. It's been slow to be picked up. But it's now, a lot of employers are beginning to realise that there is huge benefits involved here, not just for in terms of profit, but also in reputation for the firm. I'm trying to give you an instance of poor communications. A friend of mine applied for a job recently with a big organisation. I will mention it was ATHE. And they got an almost mechanical response saying, basically, you've not been selected at this point. And that was it, nothing else, nothing to go with it. And that's not really going to motivate it. And I would imagine the person that got that response thought, well, I didn't really want to work there anyway, if that's the way they treat people. And this message, or this way of looking at things is growing all the time. Then this actually runs into the same theme. It's looking at labour turnover. If people that enjoy what they're doing, they're being treated properly, paid at least the right wage for the job, then they're going to be happy. You're not going to get people suddenly leaving and saying, "Oh, stick this, I've had enough," moving on, and then having to find someone. I was an engineer by profession before this, and I did a costing for an engineering company once to show them how much it cost to actually turn over someone and get somebody in with the skills and ability needed to actually produce the same sort of work with the minimum training. And once they saw that figure in black and white, they sort of took a sharp intake of breath and went, wow, right. And they changed their attitude and they changed the way they dealt with people, and the turnover automatically suddenly turned round. And they stopped losing people. I mean, they were hemorrhaging people nearly every week. It's just not good enough. Let's have you up a bit. The performance challenge, investment in workforce skills. The sector has one of the highest training expenditures in employees. However, much of this depends on the induction training of new recruits due to high turnover. That's sort of saying two different things. It spends a lot on training, but at the wrong end. It's spending a lot of money on induction and training for new recruits, and then they leave. So one employer reports skills gaps where some staff were not fully proficient at their jobs compared with the average 13%. Over 8% of staff are not fully proficient above an average of 5%. That means basically today the job changes for a lot of jobs are quite quick. We've only got to look at this industry itself, the education industry that I'm in. I mean, I've worked from a blackboard with chalk to a whiteboard, and I'm now delivering courses online via a laptop. So there are huge changes, and those require a lot of basic skills, but they also require new ones as well, in how to operate the different things, how to actually communicate with somebody that's not stood in front of you, that's at the end of a computer. How do you do that? Do you actually draw them in enough? Can you actually create a discussion? Those are the other types of skills. Now, all businesses have this situation where the job itself is changing and the way it's presented is changing. So people need to be trained on a regular basis. But that high expenditure needs to be spent on existing employees who want to work there, rather than keep repeating the same thing over and over again by trying to fill jobs by people applying after people. This is a scheme which was brought in many years ago now to sort of mirror the old apprentice scheme, or the old type of apprentice scheme. And the travel industry actually did quite a bit of this, and it's looking at people, bringing people in as an apprentice and taking them through to management level, if that's what they want to do. Now, this worked well for a while, but obviously governments and things move in and do things, and from the employer having to make a pledge to take on an apprentice, they now have to pay a premium. So that actually drops it down and puts another, or how shall I say, it removes the benefit by putting a cost on it, which again weakens the benefit. But it's a good system, because then you've actually got people coming into the industry who learn a lot more about it through an apprenticeship to get to the stage where they're a manager. Then they understand how it operates, how it works. They understand the business itself. So, growth skills. This is actually adding some figures to what I've just been saying. So there's an investment of 29 million went in 2012-13 to give a priority on employer commitment and investment to apprenticeships, creation of employer networks, professional standards, high performance and work practices, incorporating people development. The investment people program has been around for a long time, but it's still quite impressive as far as employers are concerned. If they want to get that, they will do it, because they can see the value of it. That is actually pointing out where it's going. Yeah, where the benefits will accrue from that. That a fully trained workforce can increase our organisational productivity as much as 24%. These figures are collected from the data produced by some of the larger companies, and it doesn't probably represent the whole of the sector. But it's a pointer. So the key measures. Customer expectations are driving up the level of service. The sector needs to address its low productivity, its increasing employee engagement, employee turnover, and invest effectively in skills. So management skills are in developing staff and creating an engaged, motivated force. We've all at some time worked for a manager that has been put in a position without any particular management training, and it shows because a lot of the time managers are trained in many different skills. But one of the most important skills, and it doesn't matter which industry you're in, is people skills, people management skills, I should say. If you adopt a style that is contrary to what you're trying to produce, it will not work. And by saying, yeah, that's obvious. It is, but too many people cannot see that. And we've still got the situation where you've got people in management positions who manage by bullying a lot of the time, and then people leave, so the whole thing starts all over again. It's those people that need to be retrained and given the skills they need to actually do the job of manager. It's not an easy job, and it's something that gets easier with practice, but if you start out on the right way, where you learn to attack a challenge and find out the best means of a solution, is to be a flexible person and to listen as well as actually giving instructions. So that is one of the key messages I would give to any would-be manager. I will close that down now. Another one. Not that one. It's the other one. That one. Proverb: you don't take control of where you're headed, you'll always end up somewhere you don't want to be. It's just the same. It's the old, if you don't plan, if you fail to plan to fail. They all mean the same sort of thing. You need to plan and organise. This is what you need to do on a regular basis. You can design, create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes the people you employ to become reality. Coming back to what I said, people management is one of the biggest skills that any manager will need to build and actually maintain, because they change. Everybody's different. Everybody you will manage is different, and you've got to be able to actually micromanage people. So with high employment, a global issue, the demand for jobs is not currently being met by the supply of new opportunities. This means that an employer is now in the driving seat and has a much greater choice of candidates to choose from. Average of 16 applicants per job advertised. That has actually gone up now since this was put out. It's more like 25 now. For every job advertised, there are approximately 25 applicants. So employers have higher expectations and standards they expect from potential candidates. So you need to stand out from the crowd when applying for a job. It's survival of the fittest. There are a lot of tricks that I've worked out with different temperatures over the years. One of the ones was looking at the interview style and looking at what they thought were a good candidate compared with what using experience of people management would be the best person for the job. And quite different. But once you'd explain why I was taking a different view, it was something, I had never thought of that. You know, they come back to you and say, that never even crossed my mind. It was I'm trying to give an instance I can think of. Yes, an apprentice that I was putting up for a job at a company, I said to him, like, well, you need to put some questions for the company. Put them down on a piece of paper and write them down. And when anybody asks you them, pull them out and read them, because nobody in an interview situation can remember exactly what they were supposed to be doing. So if you've got them in front of you and you pull them out and read them, that's great. So he did this, and the apprentice or the applicant after him literally was the best one for the job, no question. But he picked the lad I'd put through because he pulled these questions out. Because I knew it was something that employers looked at. So I was sort of playing with him a little bit. But once I'd explained, he actually took the 2 lads on. He had 2 apprentices. Times you've gone back and used a company again, how many people have you told about your experience? Have you ever thought of what it makes and what makes a company stand out? One of the things I can just mention to you about a big firm like ATHE, not using the best communication methods for telling people they haven't been successful. Things like that may seem small, but they're more than just the attitude. It's the reputation of the company, because people will say, "Oh, I won't apply there, that, and the other." But you've got to make sure what your company's doing as well. So in a world of competition and limited choice, well, that's not quite true, as consumers hold complete power over where and how we spend our money, how we spend our surplus money. Most of us have commitments that we need to cover as well. So what influences our choice? Cost, yes, definitely. Value for money, almost certainly. Convenience, well, convenience, location, functionality, probably the same sort of thing. And quality is actually highly important as well. So in a world of competition and choice, where there are hundreds of businesses who can tick all these boxes, what are the other key factors that influence our overall choice of where we go and spend our money? One of the issues that an online, well, it was a cooperation to Amazon, but a smaller one within an organisation, and they couldn't understand why customers were coming on to the programme. They were actually getting towards buying and then deciding not to buy. So they had to do a complete investigation. Was it the website? Was it the way it was put? Was it the use, the way the operator could get around the website, or what was it? And it took them quite a while to discover that the system they had built wasn't that user friendly, and people were at the stage where they weren't sure what they were doing to the decision to buy, and therefore didn't. People we meet, the experience is shared, and the speed and quality of service, the ability to make us feel special. Yeah. Someone calling them customer services say they want something called service. Yeah, we've heard that one before. This section, this is mainly about the management process of how it's organised and how it's set up. Have you got any comments you want to make on that? Hello? Anybody there? Hello? Hello? Anybody in? We've lost the sound. So, finding the right job. All sounds great in theory. Do I make myself stand out from the competition to find that right job? But the 5-step rule. What kind of role am I interested in doing? What are my career goals? Are these goals realistic? What sort of company will help me achieve these goals? Small versus large, local or international? Do I have a clear expectation of what I want from my next job and from my employer? If you look at what we did earlier, and it looked at your particular skills, and this is why you did a SWOT analysis and also your learning styles as well. because that makes you think about what roles you're interested in and how you're actually going to achieve those. So you put a personal development plan together, and that will answer some of these 5 questions. Moving on. Can you hear me now, Chelsea?
I can hear you, yes.
Fine, okay. Yeah, I was just going to run quickly through this one. It's mainly looking at what we've done before, where you've done your SWOT analysis and then done your personal development plan. This leads into this, looking at researching what you want to. Any business, reputation is the key to success. Most businesses don't mind telling you what they're good at doing. Some simple things need to be considered when looking for a potential employer. How long they've been in business. That isn't always a real pointer, because some term businesses grow very quickly and are very forward and are really good to work for. I've moved jobs fairly regularly over the years. I roughly about every 2 years I changed and went and did something else. And some of the the newer businesses that I work for were exceptional. Do they conform to industry standards? Have they won any awards? What do other people say about them? How do they promote themselves? And this comes back to, like I said before, the way they deal with people and the way they interact with people, the communications methods are all important, because that gives you a signal as to what they're actually like. What are their aims and mission statement? Does this fit in with your ecology? And are you able to visit the company before you apply for a job? Now, I would always recommend that, or find, certainly most firms have got an internet presence now, to go onto the internet and go onto their website and have a look round. Yeah. An exciting opportunity has arisen at this coffee house for an experienced assistant manager. It's an international catering group. It's the fastest growing coffee shop chain. Expansion is what it's doing. These are attracting people. Yeah, they're looking for somebody with experience. It's a big organisation. It's very fast growing and it's expanding. Assisting the manager in developing a team, performance management processes, prepared and served, security. All the ones in red are actually making the point of what they're trying to do. The writing in the background is fodder. It just feeds into it. But these are the important things to look for applying for a job. Yeah, what's involved in it? Where are they going? Where will they take me? What will I get out of it, as well as what they will get out of it from your end? Excellent develop opportunities, passion, energy, commitment. All these things are pointers, if you like, to what it will be actually like working for that firm. Chelsea, you've got. Oh. Right, I can hear now. Ah, you're back on. Right. So, organisation, is it a leading player? Is it an international group? Are they expanding? Are they fast growing? Role, well, what's the admin like? They're what a requirement from you: passion, experience, energy, and commitment. They offer opportunities and reward structure. Discount some do. The one I was just talking about, ASDA, of course, they give, I think it's 10% across the board to all of work when buying stuff from the company themselves. Is there any incentive pay, and what it is like? So those are the things that most people will look at when they're applying for a job. Oops, I've done that on there. Hello? Hi, again. You're on twice now. So what employers want are people persons. Like I said before, people management. Someone's approachable with good communications, team working, enthusiastic, self-motivated, positive attitude, initiative, good quality service, honest, can-do attitude, and flexible. Those are all right. I mean, that's what employers want. But then the employers themselves have got to look at what they're going to give for that. Yeah, are they going to reach there unless they are a forward-looking employer who looks at employing people fairly? Dear Captain, my name is Nicola. I am 8 years old. This is my first flight and I'm scared. I like to watch the clouds go by. My mum says the crew is very nice. I think your plane is good. Thanks for a nice flight. So yeah, again, this is feedback. A lot of the time, when you ask for feedback from an employer from an application, very rarely do you get it, or you don't get anything. They'll either not respond at all, or it'll be sort of, well, yeah, but we decided we're going to choose somebody else. They're very poor at doing that. Okay, I'll put that one down now because I want a quick look at this LO4. Literally looking at applying appropriate academic conventions in written communication of sorts. So communication business is happening all the time. Formal and informal, written and spoken. Internal, that stays within, and external. It's essential for business success. Earlier units on communication cover some of this. So the importance of internal communication is obvious, but it needs to be emphasized because it looks at how Sales must agree delivery dates. Finance has got to know what's been sold. Sales staff must know credit limits. Customer service must know about problems and delays. And HR must know about training requirements and how to keep people. Good communications are obviously essential.
Yep.
Used internally and externally, you've got telephone, face-to-face meetings, telephone conference, by video link, video conferencing, internet video link. This is similar to what we're doing now. We use a platform, but like I say, you could be, a million miles away. Will actually be able to do that. We recently, the company went to another country to discuss working with another organisation, but because it wasn't too. But we went on when they went to one further afield. They decided to use a Skype conferencing link, which worked fine because we got exactly the same result. So it does work. So yeah, written letters these days, memos, financial documents, yes, advertisements, emails and attachments. I think probably emails and attachments have taken over almost from everything nowadays.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah, you get advertisement or advertising material is posted out, and it's still used quite a lot. You still get localized companies, I'm trying to think, pizza shops, things like that, will their advert through the door to show what they've got. But that will be done on a local basis. Today, everything is nearly done on email. One of the benefits of email, one of the best benefits of email, is that it doesn't go away. If you've had a phone call with somebody and a fortnight later they said, "Oh, I never said that," you can't prove it. In an email, it's there. You say, "Well, I'm sorry,
yeah.
this is what got said." It's like taking meetings. I can remember the time when we'd have loads of meetings. We'd have an agenda and we'd work through it, and we'd all make little notes. But nowadays, somebody takes the minutes, and they're then recorded and then issued out to the people who are meeting. And it makes sense because quite a lot of time at the time you're trying to fit in a lot of stuff, and if you didn't take minutes, then stuff would get missed, or people will end up actually talking to somebody else when something important's getting said and they don't actually write it down. But graphics are still used quite a lot, production, computer graphics and that sort of thing. Well, the graphics for computers, every website has got to have some form of graphic representation. Yeah. And certainly in my old industry, engineering, the production drawings were absolutely paramount because you couldn't produce anything unless you got a clear drawing and knew exactly what you were going to make. We're on that one. Choosing the most appropriate method. Again, this is really, really important. You've gone again. Oh, you're back. I thought I'd lost you again then. Again, choosing the most important method is obviously just as important, or the reason why you need to send it. Who is the recipient? What technology is available? How urgent the message is? Career opportunity. Sometimes a phone call is absolutely necessary because you need to make the point and get a response immediately. Email is great, but it depends on somebody picking that up. Quite often I send emails out to students at midnight because I happen to be in a position to. But again, that's not always the case. Again, if the message is very complex, it would need to be written, but again, email is written. And again, whether instant feedback's needed, like I said, in that case, obviously a phone call will be the thing to do.
Yeah.
Oops. You can use video if a person's some distance away. This is, again, it's only reiterating what we've said. Again, travel costs will be saved. When I think what it costs us to do that short journey and what it would have cost us to do the other one, there's no question involved. Yeah. If you can see somebody, it helps with communication. If you've got the technology, then yeah, use video. One of the things that I find though with video is you have to be careful. It's not so bad on here because you can only see my head and a bit of the rest of me. But I recently did ladies down from London who I had a video conference with, and their body language was different to what was being said. I'll put it that way. So you need to be careful of how you present yourself if you're on a video link.
Yes, it's true.
Use written if it's important as a permanent record. I just said before, yeah, it gives a permanent record. The information is important, or it may be complex. Again, you can use email or fax. Fax is used a lot less today than it used to be because email basically taken over from it. If non-urgent, write a letter or send. Good writing skills are vital, naturally. So written communications. Apply the basics of good writing. Identify the 3 keys to email writing and identify the 5 C's in business writing. Well, good writing depends on very few things, actually. If you've got a use of language, then it's good. If you've got a use of punctuation, that's very important because today it's even probably, I think, more important than spelling. Spelling matters, obviously, but if you've no punctuation, which is unfortunately I find these days is a big turn off for me anyway, is that it becomes difficult. What I do find is that I have quite a few students whose language English isn't their first language, and they tend to do things like you'll get a whole paragraph full of ands, and we spend some time actually retrieving that before I will put it through. It's very important. Yeah. Oops, come on. So basic report writing or review, what are you trying to accomplish? You're going to give information, or you may be trying to sell a proposal. Know your audience. 1-page reports, anticipate questions, when to laugh. Jargon and acronyms and emotional words, keep out. It's not really the right thing. People use them, certainly in the education industry. It's full of jargon. And what I try and do is try and keep it out as much as possible. And hopefully I've succeeded in that with some of the material we've put up. Yeah. The IRS of email, image, results, powerful subject line, a first section summary, short sentences, and it's secure, of course. One thing about it is don't try and put too much into one email. But I've received emails that I've forgotten what we started talking about when I've got to the end because they've been that long. I always try and keep them as short as possible to give the information that you need to give. That bit of having that powerful subject line is important. And I barely ever put an email out without putting a subject at the top to say what we're discussing.
Okay.
And the 5 C's of business communication: clearness, conciseness, completeness, consideration and correctness. Now that bit at the end is what I was discussing before about the actual, the way it's put together, the actual punctuation within there that makes it clear. Because if you've got correct punctuation, then the clearness begins to get blurred. Yeah. Conciseness, keep it as short as possible. Make sure you finish it off and you don't leave things in the air. You know, you start off a question or remark and not finish it off. And consideration for the person that's going to read it and making sure.
Okay.
Different types of letter. Oops, jumped again. Good news, bad news, routine or persuasive. If there's good news, usually start off with it and go straight into it. A lot of people with bad news will lead into it slowly, without coming to the point. Routine are just, you know, just routine letters that are being sent out or routine emails that are sent out. This one that's up on here that you can have a look at afterwards, it's an example of a bad letter, basically, that's what it's saying. Persuasive. These are things that you're going to put in that are, well, certainly advertising comes under that section, and the way you actually use language to persuade people to do a particular thing, and it's not quite as easy as it would think. You've got to, sometimes I've written pieces. I was writing a piece for a review we're doing last week, and I wrote 2 paragraphs and then rubbed it all out because it was just rubbish. And then rewrote some of it and then decided it didn't fit where I was putting it, but it would fit somewhere else. And that is using the material you've got in the best possible way. That is the end of that one. Now I'll go back to, where are we? This one. So we're looking at classifying different employment sectors of tourism and hospitality, assessing the characteristic potential, explaining the skills and qualifications required, and producing some written work according to an academic commitment. So underneath there, you've got a bunch of predictive contents. Yeah. We've covered the first part. Reflective learning, critical analysis, developing transferable skills, researching employment opportunities, CV writing, personal branding, time management, interviews and processes, and conflict resolution. That time management always makes me laugh, really. Nobody can manage time. That's impossible. What you have to do is manage yourself around the time that you've got. Slightly different look at it, really. One of the things that I used to do with the time management course I ran, I'd get them to make a to-do list for the following day. They'd spend about 10 minutes putting this to-do list together, and then I'd say, right, and what I want you to do is each of those I want you to look at separately and put an amount of time you think it's going to take you to do that. So they did. They go through this process, and 9 times out of 10, they've got something like 16 to 20 hours work that they put down for an 8-hour day. It's looking at it from a different point of view, not management, but how are you going to manage the time you've got to do the things you want to do. That then makes you prioritise.
Yeah.
You go, I can leave that one, we'll do this one. And it makes you look at managing the time that you've got, managing yourself, I should say, with the time you've got. There's a reading list on there, some of which is on the, you're managing to get into Moodle, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. In
Yep.
that case, I will... Have you got any questions for me?
No.
You think you're going to be able to manage that okay now? or you got the email. If you've got any completed work to send in, if you put it into learnerwork@ukversity.co.uk, it'll find the right tutor and it'll come into me. I'll be able to give you some feedback on that. So if you send it in, I will pick it up from there and I'll be able to send you your feedback.
Okay.
Have you got any questions for me? Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. In that case, I will thank you for your attention and I will close this meeting. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.